All right, guys, we are going to make the last part for the part design using Part Studios. It's called Exercise Step, and it uses the shell and the rib feature. Um, I really think you ought to watch the two videos before you attempt this because these can be kind of complicated features to use, but they're incredibly useful features. So this is a complicated part. This is going to be a long video, but I'll try to be as quick but clear as I can. All right, so let's get going. So I got to the part design using Part Studio section. It's at the very bottom under number 4. It's the last exercise step. Once you get here and get into it, it's typical stuff. It's going to ask you to create a new document, set the unit of length in millimeters, and we're going to create a new sketch on the top plane. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to create a new document, and I am going to call it the step. And my default is already set to millimeters, so I don't really need to do that. But I did already forget which plane we were supposed to make our sketch on. Create the plane on the top plane. Okay, so I'm going to create a new sketch on the top plane by right-clicking on the top plane, selecting New Sketch. Now I'm going to hide all the planes by hovering over any of the planes and say Hide the Planes. And I'm going to hit the N key to get a normal view. Okay, so let's see what we're supposed to do here. Step 2, we're supposed to create a center rectangle whose center is coincident to the origin, and then a diagonal construction line. This thing is 275 by 400, so this is a rather large one. I'm actually going to do some zooming out before I even make it. Now, one of the things that I'm going to remind you is that there's more than one kind of rectangle. You want to select the center point rectangle. If you don't, it is going to cause problems later down the road because we need to be that center to be coincident. It's way easier if you do it this way than to do it after the fact. So I'm going to go ahead and click the center point rectangle, click on the origin, and drag out. And I think it was supposed to be 250 by 400 or something like that. Now, once I click, I can actually enter some dimensions in. If you notice it highlighted the box down low, I can just type in 400 and then 250 and set the dimensions. Let's double check those. Oh, it was 275. That's no big deal. I can go back and I'm going to hit escape to get out of the tool, double click on the 250 and change it to 275. Okay, I'm also going to drag the 400 down here so it's pretty. Okay, so there's my basic rectangle. Let's see what else they want us to do. They want us to do a construction line diagonally across. Okay, great. Click on the line, the construction, start at the lower corner. Make sure you've highlighted the point before you click, and I'm going to do it again, and there's our construction line. All right, so we're supposed to rename this main sketch and accept it. Okay, if you click and accept it, you can always rename it by right-clicking on it and typing in the name main sketch. All right, so there it is. Okay, so we're going to get an isometric view and we're going to extrude it. But if you notice, we're doing a draft on our extrude. We're going to make it get narrower at the top by 5 degrees, and there's a depth of 40. So let's do that. We're going to get our isometric view. I'm going to click on the extrude, click on my profile. This is supposed to be 40, and it's going to draft at 5 degrees. Now you got to make sure that it's not drafting in the wrong direction. I don't know if you can see this, but it's actually making the top bigger than the bottom. Okay, that is the exact opposite of what we want. So we're going to click this button and make it draft inward, right? So you can tell now that kind of rectangle, that gray rectangle, is where it would be if there were no draft at all, right? If I unclick that, that's where it goes to. So if you want to be able to tell, sometimes clicking it on and off can help you figure that out. All right, so I got that. There's my extrude. And the next step is we're going to rename the part and make it step. Cool. So right click, rename, step. Okay, what's next? Okay, we're going to fillet the 4 vertical corners with a radius of 15 millimeters. Okay, so let's go back and get the fillet tool. I like to change the value first, so I'm going to make it 15 and hit enter, and then I'm going to click on all the edges that we're trying to fillet. And this one, boom. Okay, so there's all 4 edges, and I will accept that. Next, we're going to make a sketch on the top plane. Okay, great. So we're going to right click on the top plane, select new sketch, and I'm going to hit N so we can see it right off the bat. Next, okay, we're going to do an offset of 5 millimeters. Now you guys, this is really important. I had a heck of a time when I did this the first time. When you do the offset, okay, and you click on this plane, okay, it's going to default to going in the wrong direction. Okay, that's no big deal. You just grab this arrow and bring it in the right direction. But if you notice, if you come in too far, it's really kind of hard to see because it's highlighted in yellow. But if you come in too far, our offset turns into a rectangle. This is unfixable if you get to that point. So what you want to do is you want to get it to the point where it's just barely offset, and then click and then enter your 5. Okay, I don't know how I miraculously got 5 on the nose. That was just blind luck. But whatever you wind up getting when you let go, you got to change it to a 5. Okay, but I found that if I inset it quite a bit and then I changed it to 5 and it stayed a rectangle, and I was totally confused by that, and then I redid it and I noticed that. So be careful of that. Okay, so we've made that 5 millimeter on inset, and now what we're going to do is do a remove extrude, and we're going to make it drop down 5 millimeters into the cavity. And so as usual, I like to have an isometric view when I do an extrude. I need to accept the sketch, of course. And I'm going to hit the extrude, select the interior profile. It's supposed to be a blind 5. Well, first of all, it's add. We need to change it to remove. And is it going in the right direction? Yes, it looks like it's going in the right direction. Okay, so there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and you see it kind of makes it kind of looks like a little tray. Okay, great. Next, now we're supposed to flip it up on the underside and apply a 5 millimeter shell to the bottom face. Okay, so this is how you hollow things out. This is an awesome tool. And so I'm going to flip it to the underside so I can see. I'm going to click the shell tool, which is this one right here. Click on that underside face, change this to 5 millimeters, and it hollows it out for us. And then we'll accept that. So now we have, this whole thing is essentially everything's 5 millimeters thick. Okay, so we've created that kind of tray shape, which is exactly what I would actually expect a step to be like. I don't expect it to be a solid step. Most ladders, the step ladders these days, are made out of a combination of metal and plastic. Okay, so we've done that. Now we're going to make a sketch plane on the upper edge. Now this is tricky, guys. So what I suggest doing is zooming way in on it. And then you got to make sure you're not selecting an edge or the wrong face. You got to get this narrow edge. You right click on it and make a new sketch. Okay, so that's my suggestion. I'm going to hit N to make a normal view. I'm going to hit the top just to resize it so we can look at it properly. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is making a little sketch that is going to allow us to create the ribs. Okay, and so this is kind of difficult to see. You can see there's an inset here, but we're going to make a line that's not connected to anything, that's at 45 degrees to the bottom edge of this sketch, and then from the corner point of the main sketch, it's supposed to be offset by 22 millimeters. Okay, now there's a very specific direction you need to, there's a specific order that you need to do this in. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pan this over and zoom way in on this, okay, just to make it easier to see what's going on. And I think I accidentally tilted a little bit, so let's do that again. Okay. Now I'm going to get my line tool. Oh, actually, I need to unhide the main sketch. We need to see that corner point there. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a little line. It doesn't need to connect to anything. So I'm just going to draw it. And there it is. Okay, so now we're going to add dimensions. And it's kind of important that you do it in this order. We're going to do the angle dimension first. So I'm going to click on the line. I'm going to click on the bottom line of the sketch. And again, if you click on two lines that aren't parallel, then it's going to automatically go to the angle. So I'm going to click out here, make this 45. Now once I do that, I'm going to make that other dimension, which is the distance from this point to the line, and that was supposed to be 22. Okay, and again, one of the notes that it says in the instructions is you do not need to dimension the length of the line. You just need to leave it free floating like this. When you make ribs, all you really need is something that is in the direction you want the rib to go. Okay, so we're going to go back. We got that, and we're going to move on. And now we're going to actually do the rib features. So we're going to make a rib on the step part, normal to the sketch plane, extend profiles apart, and merge ribs, okay, and a 10 millimeter thickness. That's a lot to remember, so I'm going to move this to my second monitor. Okay, so we have to accept that sketch first, and now I can go to the rib feature right there, sketch profile. So we're going to click on that line. We're going to set the part to the step. We're going to make the thickness 10 millimeters and not parallel to the sketch plane, but normal to the sketch plane. Okay, and then when we extend that, it makes that first rib. Okay, so there it is. Okay, now I'm going to click that and accept that. And let's bring our instructions back in and see what we're supposed to do. Okay, so now we're going to use a linear feature pattern to extend this out over the rest of the top here. Okay, so this feature, and it's so important when you do linear patterns that you select feature pattern. It'll drive you insane. So the first thing we're going to do is change it to a feature pattern. We're going to pattern that rib, 20 millimeter distance, 23 instances, and apply per instance. Okay, so again, that's a lot to remember, so I'm going to move it to my second monitor. And I'm going to go in and get my linear pattern. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I'm going to click on that. First thing we want to do is change it from part pattern to feature pattern. Otherwise, it will not do anything and it'll make you nuts. Features to pattern, rib 1. Direction. Okay, the direction is that this is the reason we made that construction line. So I'm going to click on the direction first, click on that, and it's going to move it out that way. Okay, instance count 23. Okay, now here's the thing. If you look at this, you're like, oh my God, that is not what we wanted at all. Okay, well that's because we need to click this apply per instance. Okay, I won't lie, I'm not exactly sure what that means. I would like to look that up, but when you click that, it fixes it. So that's all I needed to know. And there's our feature now. And if you rotate it, you can see that looks really cool, right? So a lot of these things we're learning are tools for you guys when you go to make your own stuff. You know how to do these. You might imagine something like this, and now you actually know how to make it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to bring the instructions back. I'm going to now we're going to make a sketch on the right plane, and we're going to create a horizontal line in the middle that is 5 millimeters up from the bottom. This is going to lead us to making more ribs. Okay, so I'm going to go to my, I'm going here. I need to make a sketch on the right plane. The easiest way to do this without unhiding things, and by the way, I'm going to hide that main sketch again. We don't need to see it now. And I'm going to right click on the right plane in the default geometry list and make a new sketch. Okay, it's much easier than unhiding the plane. I'm going to hit N to make it normal. I'm going to go back to the instructions because you notice it looks kind of different. There's a little note down here. The display style has been changed to hidden lines visible to make this step easier. Okay, so what they mean is that you go over to here where we keep going to select the isometric view, and we select hidden edges visible. And there it is. Okay, so it kind of, that's just going to help us to place this line where we want it. Okay, and again, we're going to make a horizontal line, kind of just in the middle of the part, and then dimension it 5 millimeters from the bottom. Okay, and like the one we made before, it's going to not need to be defined other than that distance. So then we're going to click on the dimensions. I'm going to dimension it from here to here, make that 5. And here, let's drag that down. Okay, so I think that's actually all we needed to do for that. Let's double check. Yeah, okay, so we're going to accept that sketch. Again, for making ribs, you don't have to get super fancy. Okay, and now don't be fooled. It looks like you made a construction line. It's only because it's hidden. If you look underneath it, hidden lines are always dotted lines or dashed lines. Okay, so because it's actually inside the part, it looks like that way. It is not a construction line. Okay, now we're going to change this back to a normal view. We're just back to our shaded view. And let's flip it up and actually make that rib. Okay, so if you notice the sketch profile for the rib will be our sketch 3, that thing we just made. It's a 5 millimeter thickness, parallel to the sketch plane, and extend profiles to part, merge ribs. Okay, so again, a lot to remember, so I'm going to put it on my second monitor. I'm going to flip it upside down, something like that, so I can get a nice good view of my thing there. I'm going to click on rib, sketch profiles. I can actually just click on sketch 3, that works too. The part is the step. The thickness was 5, parallel to the sketch plane, and extend profiles to part. So it's going to extend it all the way out. Fairly easy one. Okay, now we'll accept that. Okay, what's next? Let's bring our instructions back in and move on to the next slide. Okay, so we're going to draft this rib and give it a little bit of angle. You see how there's a little bit of angle here, so that's what a draft is for. So the neutral plane is that's the part of the part you're trying to draft that doesn't get affected. Okay, and then the entities to draft that are the actual things that we're going to push out, and in this case at 5 degrees. So let's go ahead and do that. The draft feature is right here. The neutral plane, I'm going to zoom in so I can select that top easier. The entities to draft would be the 2 sides. So we did this, a very similar thing to this in our wheel that we made. Okay, now let's change this to 5 degrees and see if we can't figure out if it's going in the right direction. It's very hard to tell if it's drafting it outward. No, it actually isn't, because you can see that if we reverse it, you can see that it's in the right direction, right? So we want it to be thicker where it touches the part down there. Okay, so that looks good. And then I'm going to hit this to accept that. Okay, now what's next? Now we're going to pattern this and make 2 more. So we're going to make a feature pattern, both the rib and the draft that we did. We're going to, for the direction, we're just going to select a line along the edge of the shell, and then it's 100 millimeter distance, 2 of them centered. Okay, so instead of making 2 of them in one direction, we're going to make 1 in each direction. That's what that does. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see what's going on. Let's get the linear pattern again. Entities to pattern, make sure it's a feature pattern. The entities to pattern are the rib and the draft. Okay, the direction is along that edge of the part. They're 100 apart. And we need to center it to get that other one on the opposite side. All right, so there you go. And we'll accept that. Okay, now let's bring our instructions back in where we can see them. and we're going to make more ribs that we're going to basically make it crisscross on the bottom. So we have to make a sketch on the top of one of the existing ribs. So again, I would zoom way in so you could select that easier. Right click, new sketch, and N so we can look on it normal. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to create a construction line that goes right through the center of this thing, and then we're going to make two other lines that on either side. Okay, they're supposed to be symmetric, so we'll use a symmetric constraint. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Let's make that construction line first, and that construction line needs to go through this. They say through the midpoint of the rib, but let's face it, that's exactly where the origin is. So it doesn't really matter. I'm going to just hover over the origin, use the yellow dotted line to help me start it, and then come right back through the origin, making sure I have a horizontal constraint, and I'll click on it. Okay, then I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to get the line tool again by clicking L. I'm going to go straight up from here, and I'm going to click to start. I'm going to hover over the other endpoint and go straight up from there until everything is constrained, and I'm going to click. Okay, now I'm going to make a second one. Again, I hit escape to get out of the first line. I'm going to click the line tool again. I'm going to go straight down from here, click, go over, and you notice it doesn't line up unless you hover over a point first, and bingo, there we go. Now, if you notice, these two lines are not equally spaced. Okay, I did that on purpose because we're going to use the symmetric constraint to make them symmetric. Symmetric means like a mirror image, essentially. So to use the symmetric, if you notice, if you hover over it, it says pre-select a line or linear edge and two other geometries of the same type. Okay, you don't have to pre-select them. You can select that tool, but you always want to select the thing, the kind of the mirror line first. So I'm going to click that, then I'm going to click the two lines and watch what happens. Oh, now they're equally spaced. Great. Okay, going back to our instructions, there is a dimension of 100 between those outer two lines. So let's go back, select the dimension tool, click on one line, click on the other line, come out, make it 100, and bingo, we are cool. And once again, we're using these to make ribs, so we just don't need to make the ends defined. Okay, great. So now that sketch is done, and we are now going to make the ribs. Okay, so again, this rib feature, normal to the sketch plane, extend profiles to part, merge ribs. Okay, so it looks like we're going to click on both of these things, okay, to do that. Or actually, we're going to click on sketch 4, and that way we don't have to select individual things. Okay, so let's do that. The rib feature, sketch profiles, we're going to use sketch 4. And we are going to, oh, I forgot how thick they were. They're supposed to be 5 millimeters. So we'll click 5. Not parallel, but normal to the sketch plane. And then we need to extend it out. And the reason we made the lines go past these two ribs is so it would extend it out to here. If we made these lines in here, it would only extend to here. So if you ever wanted to do something like that, it would just be a matter of adjusting where the lines end. Okay, look at that cool thing. Okay, so now we have our crisscross, okay, with one issue. Okay, if I click, I'm going to click on this to look at it normal. You notice there are drafts on these ones, but no drafts on these. Well, that's what we're about to fix. By the way, the reason, if you wonder why they make drafts like this, when you do plastic injection molding, if you make things perfectly vertical, they won't come out of the mold. So the reason that things are made like this in these kind of shapes is so they'll actually come out of the mold. okay, because they're actually being injected into a mold. This sketch would be used, or this 3D part that we're making would be used to create a mold to injection mold these plastic parts. Okay, so that's kind of a thing. We would be learning this about this in class, except for we're not doing that stuff. So I'm just telling you. Okay, so again, we're going to do a draft. The face of the rib will be the neutral plane, right? That top profile. And we're going to do all those little faces, okay? There's literally 16 faces to select, both sides of each one of these little sections. Okay, so it's kind of the pain. And then the draft angle is 5 degrees. So let's go in and select the rib, the draft feature. The neutral plane is going to be this profile here. Entities to draft. So here's how I did it. I rolled it over. First of all, I'm going to change it to 5 right off the bat. And I just started clicking on one after the other. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, but we got to get the other side too. So I just rolled it over a little bit. And then I just clicked on the other side. Okay, beauty. Okay, everything looks good. Let's double check and make sure that it drafted in the right direction. One way to do that is to get back to our normal view, and you can see it is extended out in the direction we want it, so we'll accept that. All right, look at this beauty. Okay, so what's next? Okay, we're going to make a sketch on the side, okay, and this is so we can put holes in the thing. So we're going to start a new sketch. We're going to actually go back to our isometric view and start a sketch on this plane. So I'm going to right click, new sketch. Okay, and I'll hit end so we're normal to that. And if you notice it's not looking straight on, well, that's because the sketch plane isn't actually vertical. It's not perpendicular to the bottom plane of the part because we did a draft on those sides. So it's angled in slightly. That's why it has that view. Okay, so now what? We're supposed to make some points here. So this point is vertical to the midpoint of the edge. And then these points are horizontal. So if we make those constraints, then what's going to happen is we're going to only have to dimension this point here. Okay, so I'm actually going to make this point first along that edge at the midpoint, and then I'll make this point, and then we'll make our adjustments. So I'm gonna zoom in a bit. I'm gonna get the point tool, and again, if I find the midpoint of that, that's where I want my first point to be. The other point, I know it's supposed to be vertical from here. I'm not sure it's supposed to be lined up with the origin, so I'm going to actually hide the origin because it's kind of, what in the heck just happened? Oh, my dumb mouse wheel did that. I left it spinning. Okay, that was weird. Okay, so I'm going to make my second point vertical from here, and I'm not going to put it, I don't want it to actually have anything to do with the origin, so I'm going to put it here. Okay, and then I'm just going to put another one over here, and I do want that horizontal constraint. Okay, so now the dimension from here to the bottom is supposed to be 20. So click on the dimension tool, click on the point, click on the bottom edge, and we'll make that 20. And you notice that one raised up because it was they're tied by that horizontal constraint. And then I'm supposed to make, it says the 50 millimeter dimension is to the virtual sharp of the filleted corner. So we're going to actually have to unhide the main sketch again to do this. So I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit, and I'm going to dimension from here to here in that direction and make that 50. Okay, so now everything's where it's supposed to be. This is an odd sketch to make, but there it is. Okay, so now I'm actually going to hide the main sketch again because you get too many darn things in there. Okay, let's bring back our instructions. and we're going to use the hole feature. Okay, it's a simple blind ISO clearance M10 normal, and we'll use these two holes to get it. Okay, merge scope step. A lot of things to remember. I'm going to put it on the second monitor. Here's our hole feature. Okay, so it's simple blind ISO. Okay, I made this part earlier. That's the reason everything is already exactly what it's supposed to be. You know, that's just is what it is. Okay, so I'm going to click on this point, and I'm going to click on this point, and I'm going to rotate it to make sure that it made the holes through like we wanted them. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and accept that. Okay, I'm going to get my isometric view back. And I right-clicked instead of left-clicking. Isometric view. Didn't mean to select that thing over there. I'm going to hit escape and click out here. Okay, so we've got these two holes. See what our next instruction is. Okay, we're going to mirror that onto the other side. Now we're going to use the right plane as our mirror plane. So it seems to me like what we need to do is actually unhide that right plane. We have something to click on. Okay, so the mirror feature, what are we going to mirror? Oh, we're not doing part mirror, we're doing a feature mirror. The features we're going to mirror are the two holes. So we'll just click over here where it says hole 1, the mirror plane. I'm going to click on the right plane. I find it easier to click over. If you go in here, it just wants to select everything but the right plane, but there's that little corner peeking out. So I'm going to click on that, and let's verify that it made the holes on the other side. It sure did. Okay, so now we can accept it. Let's go back to our isometric view. Okay, next, we're going to make a sketch plane on the right plane. Okay, great. We already unhid it, so of course we don't need to do that. I can hover over here, right-click and say New Sketch, make a normal view. Okay, and let's see where we're going with that. Okay, so we're supposed to create this tombstone shape along this edge. It does say let's use this hidden edges visible thing again, and we'll make this. I'm going to move this thing to my other monitor because that is a lot to remember. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to use hidden edges visible, and I'm going to make my tombstone. So I'm going to start by getting the line tool. I'm going to click, go straight down to here. Oh, it's not letting me. Why am I not seeing? Is it? I can't tell if it's. It doesn't seem to be selecting along that edge. I don't know. Well, we'll figure it out. I'm not going to go below it for now. It's weird. When I made it earlier, I don't think I had that problem. And I'm going to get even with that and make basically 3 sides of a rectangle. And then I'm going to add my, I'm going to hit escape to get out of the line tool, click the arc tool, I'm going to connect the two, and I'm going to go up until my tangent constraint appears. There it is. I need to pan down a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to show my constraints because I feel like we should have 2 tangent constraints. We've got one between the arc on the right side. Let's make one between the arc and the left side. Okay. Also, I'm going to see if I can't make a coincident constraint between this edge and this edge. There we go. I don't know why it wasn't letting me select that before, but all's well that ends well. So we're good now. Okay. Now we have to dimension this thing. This line here is going to be 15. The radius is going to be, radius is going to be 12. And then the distance between this corner here and this point horizontally is going to be 50. So I'm going to click this point, I'm going to click this point, bring it up, make it 50, and we should be totally constrained. There we are. All right, awesome. So let's accept that. And let's bring our instructions back. We are almost done, guys. I know this is so long, but this is a crazy part. I might have to give you 2 days to do this one, to tell you the truth. This one's kind of wild. Okay, so now what we're going to do is an extrude remove through all and there's a second end position. Yeah, this is a lot to remember too. So again, moving it to my second monitor. And so what we're trying to accomplish is this profile going through everything. Okay, so I'm going to get it back to our shaded view. And I'm going to move down so I can, oh boy, let me zoom out a little bit and then rotate that so I can see that sketch right there. There's my sketch profile. Okay, so we're going to do an extrude, remove. I need the face of that sketch. I want it to be through all. But if you notice, it only goes in one direction. Okay, so that's why we're going to select second end position and make that also through all. And it's going to come out in the other direction and give us what we want. So I'll click that, and there it is. Come on, man. There we go. Got my instructions back. Okay, at this point, we're going to make it out of nylon, and we are going to check the mass. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to get my isometric view. Look at my beautiful step. I'm going to right-click here, assign material, and we're going to make it nylon. Whoops, I didn't realize that. Oh, my bad. I thought if I typed nylon, I was going to be all right, but I wasn't, because there's glass-filled nylon. Didn't even know there was such a thing. There we go. We got the right nylon. Click accept, and let's see what our mass is. It is 1,433 grams. Let's go back to our instructions. We'll click up here and verify that. 1,433. I'm going to click this. Oh, that's right. Wow. How did that? That's weird. The one I made earlier had the exact same answer as the thing. I don't get it. Okay, whatever. But it accepted that as the correct answer, so yay. Yeah, I don't understand that. That's very strange to me. I made it exactly the way I made it earlier today, and I got two different masses. Okay, whatever. All's well that ends well. Let's hide that right plane so it's making it not look beautiful. There's your beautiful step, and that is the end. And we are going to shift gears and do a whole... Oh, I think I see what the issue is. Look at this. Look at this. They're not symmetrical, these ribs. I bet you we got... Oh, okay, we're going to fix this because I'm dying to know what the heck happened. I'm going to go back. Oh, whoa, what the heck? Okay, I'm going to go back and to that step, and I am going to figure out... I think I must have made the spacing wrong or the number of instances wrong. So let's see. Oh, come on. Don't be so slow. 23 at 20. Let's see what we did. Let's go back to that linear pattern that we did. Edit. 20. Oh, I didn't change the spacing. There we go. Okay, that would account for why the mass was different. So, hey, look, we caught it. Now it looks even cooler than before, and that mass would be even more likely to be what it's supposed to be. Yeah, that was the answer they had. Okay, well, I feel better now. All right, guys, that's the end of the video. I know this is almost 40 minutes. I'm definitely giving you 2 days to do this guy. All right, have fun with that.